Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Grand Trunk Flint subdivision, Flint to Port Huron, Michigan. This is a layout update for April 2020. We've done a lot of work on the layout over the past couple of weeks. I've been spending a few hours each day on it since we've been home with this lockdown. But I was working through the winter too, which was good, slowly in the winter. But I've done a lot of stuff and I'd like to give you guys a tour of the layout and show you what I've done. So here we are at the Flint yard. I have added these two engine tracks here. I have added another yard track here. I have added an arrival and departure track, which is where the DT&I engines are sitting right now. And there is an engine, or a caboose track down there. The little tail end stores my cabooses. As we pan out here, I've also added an engine lead here, and that's this track here where this Detroit Terminal railway locomotive is at. Let's see if I can get that to focus better. There we go. And how this works is the railroad runs east and west. So one of my locals will run west out of Flint, where the DT&I is. They'll come onto the main line. They'll travel down and around. And here I've added a return loop. And this return loop is kind of loosely based on Toronto, Canada. So my roundhouse, what you see there, I need a turntable. I have two coach tracks here, and kind of like an auxiliary drill track there. So the track will come westbound, turns east, and this junction point here is pretty much the Mundy Y, which is just west of Flint, and where the double track goes to single track. But at the Mundy Y, it turns from the Flint subdivision to the old, or from the new main to the old main. So the old main runs through Flint and into the Chevy, Buick, and other industrial areas in Flint. So it runs up this track here, runs down the center of the 2 yards, and then comes down here. And as we look up this yard ladder here, this is Corona Road Yard. The yard back here on this, in the backdrop. And there's, I think, two main yard tracks. And then you'll see a arrival track and a runaround. And the 6-axle locomotives will come in. They'll drop off the cars, but because the old track is so old, only 4-axle locomotives can make it down the industrial tracks. So here we are at Chevy Manufacturing. At one point in time, this was the world's largest manufacturing facility in the world. They had 50 to 60 plants here at one point in time. And I'm modeling just 3 of them right now. So this is Plant 2A, and that's Plant 2B, and that's going to be Plant 10. And what they do is, this plant here makes motors and sheet metal parts. And eventually there's going to be a conveyor belt across the top here that moves the part components. So the engine components would come from one side to the other and then be manufactured. So these boxcars here will load motors out. And then on the far back here, on that track down there, those are coil cars. So that's for the sheet goods, for the stamping presses. And then those boxcars there are the stamping parts out. And I'm not sure, I have to do some more research on what Plant 10 does, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Here we are heading towards Imlay City at Belsey Junction. This is where my tunnel returns back to the main line. So there's the junction right there. And then the trains can make a full loop, so I can enjoy rail fanning. But I've started to do some basic landscape here, some scenery. I've built this house here. So that's kind of a winter project I had. And now we're looking at, let's just call it my executive train. It's sitting here at Imlay City. The train was too big, so I had to break one of the locomotives off here. It's sitting at the depot. And then the rest of the train is sitting there on the siding. And then here I've been working on, this is a Walthers kit, that's Merchant's Row. That's the first kit, I believe. And that's going to help complete my downtown scene. Just right there. And then back out towards the station a little bit. And that's pretty much all that's really gone on here in Imlay City. A couple new buildings. And there's our lumber distributor. And not much has happened there. Here we are looking at Imlay City. That's the Imlay City, or not Imlay City, I'm sorry, Port Huron. So we're looking into the Port Huron yard. We're looking at the Lapeer Street Industries tracks. And that's the paper mill, Port Huron Paper. And then further down the line there is the power plant. You can see an overview of the yard here in the junction with Tapan. This here is going to get rerouted. So you can kind of see where the new track's going to be. And it's going to go around, down, and it's going to go under there. And I'm going to build a drawer. And that's going to represent Detroit staging. Here at Port Huron Paper, we have, I've added a track for chemicals. And that's going to go back to the chemical plant there in the back. I guess it's called a pulp mill. So it's going to take recycled paper fibers from cardboard and then break them down and form them into new paper. And there's some hopper cars for clay. And then here is some PhD boxcars. The PhD was only like a 30-mile railroad. It was really short. And it terminated here at the yard here in Port Huron. And it went down to like St. Mary's. I think originally wanted to go all the way down to Algonac, Michigan. I don't think it quite made it that far. So the railroad's only 30 miles, but they had so many boxcars that you could see Port Huron, PhD, they called it the educated line, obviously PhD, all over America. So I like to represent that. And anytime you come to the yard, or used to come to the yard, you can see Port Huron PhD cars everywhere. Just a real large number of them for such a small railroad. And then we'll rotate in. I've done a bunch of corking here into the mill, and then I need to continue it on here into Port Huron Power. There's our power mill there. And here's some, if it'll focus, Detroit and Mackinac, or Detroit and Mackinac Railway coal cars. Not prototypical, but I like it, so I'm going to use it. And if we go down to the tail track here, we have some EJ&E switchers here for the power plant, so I'll just consider those lease units. And then there's a Detroit terminal caboose there for shoving, the shoving platform. I have reworked the track here in Port Huron. This was a double track, and now I single track the engine lead where these engines are sitting. This is the arrival departure track. So this track right here, where my finger is the arrival departure track. This is the runaround track. And then this track here where you see the steel cars, the coil cars, and the gondolas, that's staging tracks for Detroit. The track next to that is staging for Flint. And then the track here is for the power plant. And then these two here are for the paper mill. And then there's our engines. So both of my yards operate with two switchers. I have a true switcher and then a Jeep. And the Jeeps will run out and do the locals. And the switchers will break them down, and the Jeeps will help when the yard gets busy. There's the tunnel. I've reworked this tunnel top numerous times, but I kind of like where we're at now. And that's just a base coat. I'm going to get that scenic here probably tonight or tomorrow. And that's pretty much it as far as updates go. I've been doing little projects here and there. And trying to keep things moving. So I've been enjoying all the content that you guys have been creating. I've been watching a lot of videos. Seeing how people are home and making videos, I figured I'd make one of myself, and hope you guys all enjoy. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep off the tracks, keep making train videos. Good night.